very wicked news. Israel, airstrike on United Nations-run school kills 40 people. Here it is.
The Israeli military claimed it targeted Hamas militants operating in the school, but provided no evidence to back up its claim. UNRWA schools across Gaza have functioned as shelters for displaced Palestinians since the start of Israel's war on Gaza. Last week, Israeli airstrikes hit close to an UNRWA facility in the southern city of Rafah, where tens of thousands had sought shelter, setting tents ablaze and killing at least 45 people. For more, we're joined by UNRWA spokesperson Tamara Al-Rafai. Israeli military spokesperson Peter Lerner said Israel intentionally targeted the school and wrote, quote, "We assessed that 20 to 30 terrorists were in the compound at the time of the strike. We targeted precision strikes on the specific classrooms. What were the terrorists doing in a UN school? The compound was used for staging attacks and as a forward operating base," end quote.
We hear about this every time a strike kills scores of civilians in or near our buildings. International law is clear. International humanitarian law calls for the protection of civilians, of people, of women, of children. During this conflict, the UN has paid the highest toll ever in such a short period. Since the beginning of this war, Gazans have been issued what the Israeli government calls evacuation orders. In reality, these are orders for forced displacement. But mostly there was nowhere safe because strikes continues, aerial bombing continued. So there was nowhere safe. There still is nowhere safe.
With millions watching and many people benefiting from this program called Indisputable, we just need 1% of the viewers to become a paid member so we can continue to bring this content to you. Now back to the show. Everywhere they go to seek shelter, even in the areas that the government of Israel said are safe zones. We reported on that too. And they ended up being roundup zones. Easy kill. Precision attacks, dropping a bomb precisely on the class that you believe these individuals are in. Does that make sense to anybody? Of course not. No intelligence, no information, no direct propaganda showing anything like that actually was present. Just the word of the government. Per Democracy Now!, an Israeli airstrike on a UN school in central Gaza has killed at least 40 people. That number may increase, including 14 children, 9 women. That's according to local authorities. Nearly 80 Palestinians were also wounded in Thursday's pre-dawn strike that hit the Al-Nusseirat school. The United Nations Agency for Palestinian Refugees is the organization. The IDF alleged on X, posting this aerial surveillance photo. It was a, quote, precise strike on a Hamas compound, end quote, inside the school, but provided no evidence whatsoever to back up the claim. The Israeli military also stated steps were taken to, quote, reduce the risk of harming uninvolved civilians during the strike. Now, I want to pose this question because I know people will automatically take the side of the Israeli government when the citizens of Israel, they don't believe in the Israeli government based on polling data. They do not believe in Netanyahu. They believe that he's a liar. They believe he is a corrupt leader. The majority of them do. So this is about the Israeli government. Now, let me be very clear for those who want to defend this action and say things like, well, they had no choice. They have to go after these terrorists, Doc. They say that so you can buy it. If Hamas was in Israel, if Hamas was hiding in Israel, would Netanyahu indiscriminately kill Israelis in order to get to Hamas? Of course not. Of course not. Would not even be a consideration. Wait a minute, what if Hamas was in America. Would Netanyahu be able to partner with the American government and kill American citizens and say we calculated the amount of casualties that were unrelated to Hamas? Of course not. They're simply saying to you, they don't give a damn about these children. They don't give a damn about these women. They don't give a damn about these elderly people who are continually killed, and they are not combat soldiers. They are not involved in this war. They are in the middle of a conflict that's simply brought to them. A school ran by the United Nations. The man already has been called a war criminal, basically by the UN. All right, so the IDF, the UNRWA stated on X that the school sheltered 6,000 displaced people, was hit without warning. The UN commissioner called claims of armed groups inside the shelter shocking but unverified and condemned the extent of attacks on UN buildings as a, quote, blatant disregard of international humanitarian law, end quote. He noted that since the Israel-Hamas conflict began last fall, over 180 of their buildings, the UN buildings, have been hit, and more than 450 refugees killed. Meanwhile, United Nations agencies warned Wednesday that over 1 million Palestinians in Gaza could experience the highest level of starvation by the middle of next month. The World Food Program and the Food and Agriculture Organization said in a joint report that hunger is worsening because of heavy restrictions on humanitarian access and the collapse of the local food system in a nearly 8-month war. Put up the destruction again. This is not causation. Some will say this is cause and effect of war. It's unfortunate. This is an intentional starvation of 1 million souls. Because if they cared about making sure that civilians had at least some level of protection, why restrict the American Red Cross? Why restrict international aid? Why restrict individuals who would never lift a finger to hurt anybody but are willing to be true heroes? Go to the region and try to help. Why? Because you want them to die. And you want them to starve to death if you cannot bomb them. That's why. Israeli military says it has allowed hundreds of trucks to enter through the Kerem Shalom in recent weeks, but the United Nations says it is often unable to retrieve the aid because of the security situation. It says distribution within Gaza is also severely hampered by ongoing fighting, the breakdown of law and order, and other Israeli restrictions. See, they are creating the policies to produce the effect that you see. And at the end of this, regardless of how it happens, starvation, bombing, lack of access to medical care, they're not concerned about that. They just want dead bodies. There's more. Integrated food security phase connection. Classification. The World Authority on Determining Extent of Hunger Crisis said March that around 677,000 people in Gaza were experiencing phase 5 hunger, the highest level and equivalent to famine. The two UN agencies said that that figure could climb to more than 1 million, nearly half of Gaza's total population of 2.3 million by the middle of next month. On Tuesday, a separate group of experts said it's possible The famine is underway in northern Gaza, but that the war and the restrictions on humanitarian access, once again, Israeli government policy, have impeded, and the data collection to prove it. Furthermore, radical Israeli settlers expanded their attacks on aid trucks passing through the West Bank in May, blocking food from reaching Gaza, as humanitarian groups warn that the enclave is sinking deeper into famine. Groups of settler youths are tailing relief convoys, setting up checkpoints and interrogating drivers. In some cases, far-right attackers have ransacked and burned trucks and beaten Palestinian drivers, leaving at least 2 hospitalized. The assaults use a web of publicly accessible WhatsApp groups to track the truckers and coordinate attacks, providing a window into their activities, working off what they say are tips from Israeli soldiers and police. In addition to the public, members pour over photos to work out which vehicles might be carrying aid to Gaza and mobilize local supporters to block them. There's more.
איזה יופי זה. זה מה שקורה למי שמביא אוכל לחמאס.
We come here in the morning and we made sure that the settlers won't be able to block the road. The settlers were in the Tarkumia junction. We got there and made the police push them away. Then they blocked another junction. We came here just when they started attacking the trucks. By our help, the settlers were removed from the trucks and the trucks was able to go forward to Gaza.
Happy I'm here, doing what I can. I wish more people were here and we would be able to prevent this instead of fixing what is done.
Real heroes out there trying to do right. Put up the graphic, reported impact. Per the United Nations Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs, 36,586 Palestinians reported killed, 83,074 reported injured, displaced 1.7 million. These numbers may be wholly underrepresented given the lack of continual and accessible data. All right, Senator Turner, thoughts?
Those numbers are underrepresented, Doc. And I'm gonna tell you, anybody who could look at this and think this is okay, it's something wrong with them. America is complicit. This Biden administration is complicit in partnering with, because it is our money. I want Americans to understand this ain't just some any old place in the world. United States tax dollars are being used. Our bombs are being used to kill Palestinians in the Gaza. And that is why we should have a whole bunch to say. And the fact that this president, that there is no daylight, it pains me to say it. And I know it's gonna pain some folks to hear it, but there is so for all those anti-Trumper folks, there is no daylight between President Joseph R. Biden and former President Donald J. Trump on how they would comport themselves on dealing with the crimes against humanity at the hands of the right-wing government of Netanyahu. And Doc, you laid it out straight. Most Jewish people, most Israelis, they not rolling with this. So those outliers you see in those right-wing settlers trying to stop food from coming in, and don't say they bordering on famine. The people who are still alive are living in famine right now. The safe zones have become killing fields, Doc. And I believe that Netanyahu is taking out revenge on the UN for calling him out for his crimes. And that's why he's bombing those places. And Doc, let me breaking news here. The NAACP, the National NAACP, has called on the United States of America to stop sending weapons over there. Understand what's happening here. Jewish Voices of Peace, another group of our sisters and brothers standing up for our sisters and brothers, family and friends in the Gaza. But the NAACP, and this is what they said, Doc. They said it's one thing to call for a ceasefire. It is another to take the measures necessary to work towards liberation for all. NAACP urges the Biden and Harris administration to stop weapon shipments to Israel and push for a ceasefire. People are over it. The AME Church, as you know, Doc, the African Methodist Episcopal bishops have called for a ceasefire even months ago. Folks are mounting up, Doc. They sick of this. Now, believe your lying eyes on this one. And then, Doc, your point, because I had to scratch that off my notes. If, in fact, Hamas was suspected to be in the United States of America, hell, I think Biden would let them kill Americans. I really do. The way he allowing them to comport themselves. And for those who say he can't do anything with Israel, the hell he can't. He carries the big stick, meaning the United States of America, our tax dollars and our weapons. So he can tell Mr. Netanyahu, no more on my watch, you ain't getting another dime. And he'll get some act right real quick. But this president is playing games, Doc. And you guess what? Who's gonna pay for it? They owe Israel owes reparations to the Palestinian people. When all is said and done, who gonna fix what they have broken?
Everything
Israel owes that money. But this country is complicit under the leadership of President Joseph R. Biden. Now, people might not want to hear that, Doc, but those are the facts. They don't have to listen to Sister Senator Turner. Just look at the facts.
And the fact is also this: over 80% plus of Democrats.
Yes.
Democrats, Americans, wait a minute. There's something wrong with this picture. You see, Trump is actually holding or adhering to a policy that a whole lot of his people believe in, but Biden, on the other hand, he is adhering to a policy that we do not believe in. And that is a betrayal to the political trust. Remember, there is nothing sacred about that institution. The only thing that is sacred was us who put you there, the voters who put you there, sir.
All right. And Doc, I know we gotta go to break, but international law. So what's gonna happen when an enemy of the United States comports themselves in the same way that Israel is doing right now? We have no grounds.
That's right. Hypocrisy galore, though, right?